What's going on, everybody? I am your host, Cade Morehouse, and this is my co host, Dylan Napoleon. And this is the first episode of the Talk of the Tape podcast. Dylan, how are we doing?
Doing good, Cade. Super excited. We did our introduction video last night. We got that posted on Instagram, YouTube, and stuff like that. So hopefully our first group of followers and supporters have seen that. But here we are tonight. Today is Tuesday, and we're here to talk about actually a plethora of topics. This is my second interview podcast within the past like 2 hours. I just got off of one. Now I'm here. So excuse me if I get redundant or if I look tired. We've had quite a day. I did an interview earlier with Mr. John Duma himself. Did that show earlier, and now here we are. So I still got some fuel in me. I'm feeling good.
Yeah, man, we're gonna get into UFC, Vegas 85, and a bunch of other topics. So I'm super excited. Let's hop into that UFC Vegas card.
Let's do it. Cade, you pulling up some graphics for us, I think?
Yes,
There
sir.
we go. Look at that. Cade the engineer. Wow. What that we got some bangers. Let's start with the Themba Gorimbo fight.
Yeah, Themba Gorimbo is taking on Pete Rodriguez. Pete's
P-Rod.
actually coming back. MMA lab product. Super excited for this fight. Dylan, let's start with you. How do you see this fight going, man?
To be honest, I don't really have a prediction for this fight. I'm just super excited to see it happen. I mean, I'm excited to see Pete Rodriguez get back into the cage, and with Themba and his story, man, I can't wait to see him get in there and fight as well. This fight is destined to be greatness. It's at 170, right? Yep, 170. Man, Themba Gorimbo's a huge prospect. I know he's still early in his UFC career, like a newcomer. And man, he's got a tough test, but I think this is a great battle for the both of them. A great fight for Pete Rodriguez to kind of jump back into the sport with. I can't wait for this fight. Like seriously, this is a fight that I've been looking at for a couple weeks now, and I think it's gonna be a banger.
Yeah, man. I think Pete Rodriguez, he is the underdog in this fight. Here's your guys' odds right here. He's at plus 200. Themba's at minus 245. I think this fight should be a close, good fight. I don't always go by the odds. I think stylistically, Pete's a good matchup for Themba, and I think it's going to be a banger. I don't really have a winner, but if I had to guess, I think Pete's going to pull this one out. Personally, he's just a dog, man, and he comes forward and he's got power in his hands, and I honestly think he might finish this one.
Cade, you got to remember when you make these predictions, the people are going to hold you to it.
Hey, hold me to it.
Cade Money Morehouse, we call him that for a reason. He's out there making some picks every fight week and usually cashing a little bit too. So, Cade, we'll respect your opinion and respect your prediction here because you know what you're doing with the picks.
Sometimes. This is a fight I want to get into, though, with this whole UFC Vegas card, 85 card. This one's interesting to me. It's Molly McCann and Diana Belbita. Molly's coming back off an injury that she suffered in her last fight. She's been on a couple fight losing streak. It's been kind of like a rough patch for her. I think this is a good matchup for her, but I think that she's going to have to take maybe a different approach to how she's been approaching her last couple of fights. Be more calm, more calculated in her approach. Her last couple of fights she came in as like a big favorite too, and it's kind of like the same thing in this spot. People are expecting her to win. People are actually high on her because, they love her and Patty. They love everybody from that team. She has a big
no, not SBG. I'm sorry, I'm not bugging.
Nah, she's just super marketable. The fans love her. From England, she's really big out there in England too. So people have a lot of high hopes for her. I'm really excited to see her come back from this injury, and last time when we saw her in San Diego, she seemed to be in really good spirits. And, I think she can get this one done and get back into the win column. I think it would be
Yeah,
a
I
huge,
agree.
I think it would be a huge step for her and where she's at in her career right now. I think uh, this might be crazy to say, but in a way, a career defining fight, because I think she's lost her last 2 or 3 fights,
She's
correct?
lost her last two.
Her last 2 fights.
Yeah.
So I think getting back in the win column is crucial for Molly McCann. How do you see this fight?
Everything you just said, I'd agree with 100%. Molly McCann steps in on a 2-fight skid, and the Warrior Princess Diana Belbita comes in with a professional record of 15-8. She is on a 1-fight skid right now. However, she has some amazing wins. She beat Hannah Goldie back in 2021, and I just see this fight being another like close fight, and both fighters have to come out hungry because, as you said, this is a career-defining fight. It also is a rematch, Cade. They fought back in 2019 on a UFC ESPN card. They fought before, and this fight happens to be right around 4 years later, a little less than four. But man, they're gonna run it back, and I
And
think
Molly came out victorious in that fight. I think, right?
um let me
She did.
see. Yes, Molly did win that fight.
Yeah. So this is a rematch. This is also a huge fight for Diana. It's kind of like a revenge fight,
Yep.
but I think they're both different fighters. That many years is a lot of time to improve. So it should be a totally different fight. But I
I
still like.
think it's a good matchup, to be honest. Like sometimes you ask people like why the rematch? Like why make these two fight again, or why have them not make them, but why do they want to fight each other? It's not like anyone's forcing them to. Number one, revenge. Number two, there's been so many ups and downs between these two and their in the past couple years during their careers. It's like they're brand new people in a way, like I feel like the way that they saw each other fight in the first go around is going to be totally different than what they should expect from each other in this fight. And I think that's why it's so exciting is yeah, they fought before, but they're different fighters now.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Like I said, it's a big fight for both of them. But I think Molly has to get herself back into the win column here. Losing
I,
2 fights
both
in a
of them
row.
need to.
Yeah, both of them need to be honest with you. But I think it would be a real bummer for England and Molly to have a 3 fight skid. That's really rough to come back from too. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's what makes this fight interesting in their division, because this is one of those types of fights where both girls, are needing a win.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Is that the next fight you want to talk about, Cade?
Yeah, the next fight I wanted to talk about was Renato Moicano. He's number 13th ranked in the lightweight division, and Drew Dober, who got himself back to I don't know if he ever left the rankings, but he's ranked at number 15 right now. Drew's an interesting fighter because he's so good. He's got dynamite in his hands. He comes forward. He's got a chin that is crazy like no other.
Yep.
Uh, but Matt Frevola was able to get past that and
Yep.
finish Drew.
In the
Uh,
first.
yeah, in the first round. Two guys who are good strikers and come forward and like those types of firefights, and Matt came out on top. Drew then he got Rick Glenn in his next bout, and was able to get a dominant knockout finish in the first round himself. So now here he is about to fight Renato Moicano, who's an interesting fight for him because of the simple fact that Drew is a guy that likes to come forward and pressure his opponents, and he has dynamite in his hands, but Moicano can crack too.
Oh, he sure could. He
And
showed that. He showed that in a couple fights. He gets a lot of submission victories. However, a lot of his submission victories come from some great striking that helps him get the fight to the ground. You know what I mean?
yeah, and the other thing is too is Moicano has a part of his game that he could try to use against Dober, and that is his ground game.
100%. I think
Uh,
this is a fight where we have a hard-hitting striker against a guy who excels on the ground. So we're going to see Drew Dober come into this fight. He's going to be looking for the knockout. I think he's going to be the guy who wants to keep the fight standing. I mean, he has a total of 27 wins, and a lot of them, a good majority, 11 of them come from knockouts. And Renato Moicano, he has 0 knockout victories, except he has 10 submission victories and 7 decision victories. So what that tells me is that Renato Moicano is a guy who can be there all 3 rounds and stay tough. It's going to be Drew Dober looking to take his head off, Renato Moicano looking to weather the storm, take him into deep waters, and ultimately get his hand raised, if not by decision, I'd say if this fight ends in the first, probably under 1.5, I think Drew Dober takes it home. Anything after that, Renato Moicano. I think Drew Dober has to have a sense of urgency in this fight. Renato Moicano just has to weather the storm. He has to watch himself from big shots and stuff like that. But if he can get this fight to go into deep waters, and ultimately, I think his ground game is going to need to be strong. He can get this job done too. So it's literally going to be who exposes their opponent and who executes the game plan better that night.
Yeah, I think Moicano's also gotten himself in trouble with his chin every once in a while. So that's one thing to look out for in this fight. Like Dober's no one to play with in the striking department, especially when you've gotten in trouble before and wobbled and stuff like that. I mean, this guy's got extreme power in his hands for a lightweight. It's a really interesting fight. Back to what you were saying though, Eddie. Not to backtrack, I didn't see your comment though. I agree with you. Actually, I think if Molly loses one more fight, there's a potential. It's a potential cut possibility.
I
The
feel
only
like that
thing,
can go for both fighters.
yeah, for both fighters maybe, but I would say that the only thing that might save her is just how much she's loved in like England. So I don't know if they would give her one more chance or not, but like I kind of thought the same thing myself. I thought maybe if she loses this fight to Belbita, there's a chance she might get cut for
Yeah.
sure.
And that would be huge. I mean, that would be a big loss for the community. Obviously, you're going and saying how respected she is in Liverpool and England. That would be very unfortunate for them. But like you just said, she does ride a 2-fight skid. However, one of them is to Aaron Blanchfield. But at the end of the day, they are both in the first round, and they were submission losses. I hope that I think whatever happens here, Belbita or Molly McCann, I think this is a kind of like a last chance for both of them.
No, for sure. But moving on to the main event, we got to touch on the main event before we close out, the fights that we wanted to touch on in this card. You have Nasruddin Imavov and Roman Dolidze. Dolidze
Great
is
scrap.
what's that?
Said it's a great scrap.
Yeah, Dolidze is number 8. Imavov is number 11. I'll start with you. How do you see this fight playing out? Because it's actually kind of a little bit of an interesting fight stylistically, I feel like.
I'd agree. To be honest, I don't even know where to start with this. We have Dolidze. He has a heavy striking background. I think his knockouts. A lot of his wins have come by knockout. Over half of them, and I think we all know the power that he carries. Then you have Nasruddin Imavov. He has a total of 12 wins, 5 of them by knockout. So he's right there too. I mean, both of them have power. Imavov's finished a bunch of fights via submission. They're both really well rounded. Wherever this fight ends up, I think they're both threats to each other. One thing that comes to mind is that Imavov is going to be hungry, man. He's going to be looking to get back in the win column. He hasn't won a fight since he beat Buckley back in 2022. But same thing for Dolidze, right? Dolidze had 2 cancellations. Before that, he lost to Vettori. So I just feel like both of these guys are going to have a chip on their shoulder. They're going to be hungry. And when that comes to mind, and when we're talking about that, it's hard to really predict what's going to happen here,
Yeah. Are you, Eddie? Are you talking about? Are you? I think you're talking about a boost, right? I don't know if Imavov has fought. Let me see. Yeah, because I was gonna say
Oh,
I
I
don't
see
know
it
if
now.
Imavov's fought Strickland. I think that was when a boost, correct?
It could have been, but no, I didn't. He did. Didn't that fight happen? Yeah, Imavov. Imavov fought him. It's all right, Cade. Carry on.
I know. I'm not even seeing it. That's what I was looking for it. I honestly, if I must have forgot that fight totally happened, but I was gonna say this fight. I agree with you. I think it's a very close fight. I think it's one of those things where both guys are very well rounded, but I can't really pick a winner in this fight, to be honest with you. I honestly don't know who's going to win on it, but I'll ask you this: who do you think it's more important for where they're at in their careers? Who do you think needs to win more?
I'm gonna go with. I mean, okay, so Roman Dolidze is the number 8 ranked. Obviously, he needs the win to climb up the rankings even more and get closer to his title shot. But same thing goes for Imavov. He's number 11. He wants to climb the rankings too. I feel like this is just as important for the both of them, quite honestly.
Yeah, and Dolidze, that was kind of a rough one. The last fight, a lot of people felt that he had won the last fight against his last fight against Vittori.
Yeah. Yes.
So this is like another tough fight for him where, it would be crucial for him to get back in the win column because he's still sitting at number 8, even with the loss to Vittori. So he could potentially put himself in a predicament. I don't know if maybe to run that fight back, but if he wins this fight, maybe he's looking at a top 5 fight
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. I would say he's number 8. He gets the job done here. He's going to be looking upwards. You know what I mean?
Dana came in for media day, kicked off to get all the.
That's funny.
Oh man,
Not
yeah. I
surprising.
I I think this is a great fight though. I actually think it's an underrated fight. If I'm being completely honest, and
Yeah, it's a
I,
great main event for a fight night card. I think, it's an Apex card. However, it's going to be, and this card in general is a pretty good card, honestly.
I think, and especially in the middleweight division, I think this fight's interesting too because it's a chance to possibly get a new fresh face up in the top of the rankings.
100%. I think whoever wins is, I don't know if they're going to be in, I don't think they'll be, you know, title contenders yet, but they might need another win. But they're going to get right up into that kind of middle area of maybe if something, if they need a quick replacement for a top contender fight, these guys are right there. If not, one more win for whoever wins this fight should help them get up there. And I think either one would probably be like, I don't know, maybe like three less than 3 fights away from a title shot, probably 2 if everything goes to plan for them.
No, I agree with you 100%. That'll close out
Probably
what
like
we
2 or 3 fights, yeah, for the winner.
yeah, that'll close out everything that we wanted to talk about for Vegas
Thanks
85.
for tuning in, Eddie.
Is there anything else that you would want to bring up about this card? By the
Um,
way,
the
Eddie,
Randy Brown and Muslim Sadikov fight, that should be a banger too. We don't have to get into the nitty gritty on that one, but man, that's going to be a good fight too.
that is going to be a good one. Eddie, good night, brother. Have a great day tomorrow, man, and I'll catch you later.
That's right. All right, Cade. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about the next topic. There he is,
Patrick
Mr.
Anna
Patrick
in the
Dana.
house.
Good to have you, Pat.
Cool. Next topic, guys. When I bring this up, just know I wholeheartedly like Sean Strickland. This is just a topic of discussion for anybody that wants to chime in on this. Dana says 95% of what Sean Strickland says he doesn't agree with, but he's not going to stop him. Is Sean Strickland a PR problem and bad for business, or does he bring good ratings and it's good for business?
I personally side with the second part. I think a crucial part to MMA and a crucial part to just people loving this sport is we have to accept people for what they are and what their beliefs are and what they think, right? I personally think that this is too good of a sport and too good of a space to limit what people can say and how people can express themselves. I think that these fighters do a whole lot worse when they get into the cage and try to take each other's heads off. They train too hard to be put in a situation where they have to use a filter. I personally, um, as far as not stopping him, I give Dana props for that. Quite honestly, this sport has a lot to do with showing who you are and whether you hate it or love it. That's a huge part of the sport, and I think this sport is too good to have to kind of regulate things like that. Sean Strickland has beliefs that people do and don't have, and he puts them out there wholeheartedly and the way he wants it to be known. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The people who say that he's in the wrong have different beliefs. The people who say he's right probably have similar or different beliefs. Everybody's different, right? At the end of the day, this sport is way too major, way too big, and these guys, they deserve to kind of express themselves no matter what they think. Listen, Sean Strickland's not out there making, he says some pretty extreme things. However, those are his thoughts, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion. There also is freedom of speech, right? So I think that if the UFC is holding these press conferences and they have to regulate things, it wouldn't be a good idea. I think giving the guys freedom is the way to go.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Listen, I think Dana puts it the best. You don't like what he says? Tune in Saturday night. The best part about all of this sport is you get to watch him get punched in the face.
Right.
I think that people should be able to speak their mind and honestly say whatever they want. But I do have a sense of belief where if you're gonna say stuff about the LGBTQ community and the trans community and all the communities that he spoke on about, and your beliefs are your beliefs, like, oh, don't teach this in school, don't do this stuff. Yeah, go ahead and 100% speak out on whatever you believe in. I don't think anybody should stop him. Those are his beliefs. That's who he is. And I think that's the best part about the UFC is they let their guys talk what they want.
Yeah, I agree.
But the other part of me, the only thing is I don't think you should ever attack somebody for being that. If
Right.
they want to be that, let
But
them
I
be.
also I'll agree and disagree. There's a time and a place for certain questions, and I'm not hating on anybody. I'm just putting my thoughts and my I think the question that is in controversy and is in question now, this is an MMA fight. We're not there to ask these types of questions. I think it was very uncalled for, to be honest, and not appropriate. Right? If you're going to ask that question, be ready for
Respect for the
be
answer.
be ready for the answer. That's what I think.
100%. I
And
agree with
that reporter knew exactly what was coming. Like, how Sean is going to react to a question like that. So whether he was doing it to get some views or whether he was asking it to get the answer, you knew what was coming. And
you.
that's a press conference before UFC 297, Sean Strickland's first ever title defense. Honestly, bro, I'm gonna say this: shame on that reporter for asking that question.
Yeah, man. I mean, when you ask questions,
Do it in an interview. Don't do it when the guy's got his blood running and getting ready during fight week 2-3 days away from the fight. Like, there's a time and a place for that. If you want to ask that question, get an interview. At that point, Sean Strickland is vicious. Sean Strickland is ready to go out there and go to war. And we all know what his mindset's like, when he goes into a fight. So listen, you did it to yourself, if you ask me.
yeah, I mean, listen, your beliefs are your beliefs, and nobody can stop you from that. And the UFC is certainly not going to stop you from that. Like I said, I just don't think that people should be attacked for that. His beliefs are his beliefs. The report, all the reporters that have gotten him riled up about those stuff, you should expect the answer you're going to get. I would say the most thing I don't agree with, maybe with Strickland, is when he maybe bashes female fighters on social media when nobody really provoked it or that type of stuff. And I only say that because I think that those women work just as hard as the men do to be where they're at. Uh, but again, uh, Dana's not going to stop it. Nobody's going to stop it. Those are his beliefs. And That's what makes this sport good. And like I said in the beginning of all this, Dana says it best.
Yeah.
I like what he says. You
This
get
sport is too this
plays.
sport is too brutal, and there's way more. It's a like I look at the bigger picture, right? These guys train day in and day out. They put their lives on the line when they step into the cage. These guys have every single right to express themselves the way they want. Sean Strickland's not doing anything that goes against the law, not making any. Yeah, obviously there's controversy, but it's like, dude, like you're allowed to express yourself, especially if you're asked that question. If you turn every question into that, then I could say, okay, dude, draw the line, answer the question. But dude, Sean Strickland answered the question that he was asked. What's wrong with that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, man, when you ask a question to a guy like Sean Strickland, who has
They're
no
vulnerable.
has strict beliefs and stuff, and will say whatever he wants. I mean, you should just expect what he's gonna say, man,
That's
and
right.
expect the worst because
That's
that's
right.
for you.
Cade,
But
you want me to introduce our next topic?
go ahead, man.
So our next topic that we wanted to discuss tonight happens to be about Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo speculates retirement after if he loses to Merab. Is that the correct move for a guy like Henry Cejudo? Personally, I think that's a good question. I think Henry Cejudo's too established and too good. I know he's kind of like rebounding and he's only there for the title. If that's what if he thinks that he's never going to get a title shot again and he doesn't want to go through the rigmarole to get another title shot, then I guess that's a fair thing. But I see Henry Cejudo as a staple to the sport. I think he's kind of like a pioneer, a guy that will never ever be forgotten. So I feel like there's always room for him in the sport. But if that's how he feels and that's the way he wants to go out, and then I totally respect that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is my thought on it. I think Henry came back from a 3-year layoff, and he came back to take on the baddest guy in the 135-pound division, and he came up a little bit short. And it was a very hard fought fight.
But also a great test for himself as he was getting back into the sport. Like, dude, like he could have taken not an easier, but a lesser, a fight with less significance. Okay, how about that? But no, he went in there with the champ. That's very respectable, dude. Give yourself some credit. Fight a couple more times and make a run for the title. You know what I mean? I think, Aljo's not even in the bantamweight division anymore. So Henry Cejudo gets a victory here. He's got a title fight, in my opinion. He doesn't win. Get 2 more fights, dude, and you got a title shot. So it's just a question if he wants to go through that and put in the camps and have to go through it again. If he just wants a title shot and he doesn't get it, then I totally get it. But I feel like I said before, there's always gonna be room for Henry Cejudo, even if he says, all right, I'm done, and then another year later says, I wasn't happy with my decision, I want to come back. Dude, you're gonna whatever Henry Cejudo wants is what's gonna fly, because he's just got it like that.
Yeah. So this is a point I want to bring up. He came on and took on a much bigger fighter than him. He came in and took the challenge. When you're a competitor like Henry Cejudo, you set the standards high, especially when you have won multiple belts. You've had the career you've had in MMA. You've had the career you've had in wrestling and combat sports as a whole. Your standards are just higher than everybody else's when you've been a champion at the highest level for a long time. And that's
Right.
exactly what that guy has been. But this is something I want to bring up. He lost the fight by a decision. But look at the numbers of the fight. And the numbers don't tell everything of a fight all the time. But I'm just bringing this up not to say who won the fight, but look how competitive it was for a 3-year layoff for Henry Cejudo.
That's what I'm saying.
He got 3 of 8 takedowns, had a better takedown percentage than Aljo in the fight, who was 4 for 15. He had a minute and 6 seconds more of control time. The strikes were Aljo landed 36 more significant strikes, about 40 something more significant total strikes throughout the fight. It was a very competitive fight. Coming up against this Merab fight, this is 2 styles where both of them like to wrestle.
Yeah,
Who's the better striker? I
that's
don't know.
right.
It depends who you ask. If you ask me, I think it's Henry. I think Henry has the better hands. I think where Marab finds success in his striking is he's so relentless in the fact of using his wrestling that if you stuff him enough times, it makes the other fighter weary of his takedowns, and he can start having success on his feet.
Yeah,
This is a
yeah,
different matchup, though. Henry's a good wrestler. Is Marab going to come in there and just try to slam Henry around? I don't know.
that's a good
It's a,
question.
it's a good fight. This is a good matchup. I think either one of these guys could walk out of this fight and win. Honestly, you want my honest opinion? I think it's who comes in to UFC 298 with the better cardio.
Yeah, yeah, that's a damn good take on that. Yeah, I'd agree with you there, Cade. The gas tank is going to be very instrumental in this fight.
In the arena, most of us believe Cejudo won the fight. Would be crazy if he retires off a win here. I don't think he'll retire off a win.
I
However,
think
if he
if he
loses,
retires, it would be off the loss. But
because
still,
Dylan,
man,
you
it
made
just depends on him. I think he could still do it, but that's not up to me. That's up to him. And if he feels like he's done and his body's been through it too much, and he doesn't want to make an extra couple cuts to try and get another title shot, then listen, I respect that just as much as I do as if he gets the win and gets a title shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you? I was going to ask you. You said something earlier. You said he might need 2 fights to get
If
back
he
to the title.
loses, yeah, if he loses, I think he's gonna need one to rebound and one to
If he loses, because I
yeah.
was going to say I actually think if
If he
he
wins, I
won
think he's
a fight,
got a title shot off rip. Yeah,
I think honestly they would book him against the winner of Cheeto and Sean.
I'd agree with you. But what I'm saying is, if he loses and wins a fight after that, no, not a title shot. But if he loses, wins, I think yeah, title shot. I think he's gonna need 2 fights to rebound.
Hey Kevin, how are you? Cejudo is getting to a point where injuries are a problem that will probably retire him. He struggled with a shoulder injury since the Sterling fight.
Yeah,
I do agree,
that's what yeah.
I do agree with that. Also,
Beat up.
not to
That's
be
why
the
that's why I get it. You know what I mean? But if he thinks he can make another 2 cuts or whatever, 1 or 2, 3, whatever. If he wants to do it, I think he could do it. But if he wants to retire because of the shape that his body's in, then I totally get that as well. Like whatever he wants to do, it makes sense.
yeah, and not to beat a dead horse, but as they say, man, father time is undefeated. Henry's got a family at home and he's 36 years old and he has had some injuries. So if he loses to Marab here, to him, it's probably not worth it at this point in his career to take on 2 more training camps to get back to a title fight. He'd probably rather
And I
call
get
it
it. That
career.
makes sense.
And I would understand it. But if
Yeah.
he wins here against Marab, he does have a chance, I think, to go and fight for a title again against the winner of Sean and Cheeto.
I want to know what the chat thinks. Do you guys think that if he gets a win over Marab, that a title shot would make sense for the next fight?
I thought Henry won in person. When rewatching, I see why Aljo won. Close fight for sure. Yeah, it was a close fight. And I don't think at any point in the fight, Henry was out of that fight.
Yeah, I'd agree 100%. But let's let the chat give us some. He said Pat Dana most definitely. Yeah, I'd agree, but I wouldn't disagree if someone said no. I mean, I think personally, yeah, it just makes sense. But if they don't give it to him and they give it to someone else, I feel like the bantamweight division is so good. We can't say that there's other people who don't deserve it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Before we move on to the next topic, I guess it just depends also where Corey's at in his rehab from his injury,
Right.
because Corey's in that mix somewhere too.
Oh,
But
he's got to be.
I do think though, if he beats Marab here, that he is in line next to get the title shot, and Corey will come in somewhere after that. That's just what I'm assuming.
With the UFC knowing that he's kind of working with a timeline and kind of wants to get things going, and if not, then hang him up. Like I think they would give it to him, especially with what he's done for the UFC. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But Cade, go ahead, man. What's our next topic?
Let's talk about Conor McGregor for a second.
Okay.
Is I guess my question is Connor serious about this comeback fight, or is he just using it for attention and publicity? And here's the reason I ask this. Dana says, I got it right here. When Connor is ready to fight, we will announce it. That's what we will do. That is what we do. So Dana is making it sound like Connor's not ready to take this comeback fight.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So,
I personally don't see Connor fighting at 300.
I don't think he fights at 300 either.
No.
Now, that wasn't even the rumor. The rumor is that he was going to fight an international fight.
Right. But then they were tossing around 300.
Another thing that I have my questions about is 185 just sounds like a joke.
Yeah, dude.
It sounds like a gimmick.
I agree.
Fight,
I don't think it makes sense, dude. Like Michael Chandler has no business fighting at 185, and neither does Conor McGregor. If Conor McGregor was just going to do this fight to do it because of the Ultimate Fighter and to kind of end the season and make it happen for real,
I'll tell you exactly.
I don't think it makes. I think Conor McGregor. It only makes sense for him because he wants to get out of it. I think he's going to retire, do something else after this fight. But for Michael Chandler, it makes no sense.
It sounds like this to me. Conor, I bulked up too much. I put on too much weight. I can't make 170 or 155 anymore. So let's just do the fight at 185. That's what's easiest.
Dude, I cannot see them. Like, I cannot picture them fighting at 185. It's crazy.
Or it's Conor's like
I don't even know if Michael Chandler weighs 185 pounds.
No, he definitely does.
Yeah?
Yeah, he probably weighs at least 190, 185.
Yeah, but still, if you're going to
fight... He would be fighting at his natural weight.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean.
He hasn't done that his entire career, probably.
For him, it makes no sense, dude. Because he is a fighter who wants to keep fighting. I could see Conor doing one or two more fights. I
think it benefits Conor the most.
Oh, 100%. For Chandler, Chandler's, it makes no sense for him.
The only thing that makes sense for Chandler at this point is he's looking at the dollar signs on signing.
That's it. Yeah. And I feel like for Conor, for both of them, it's going to require a lot of money. But I feel like it's a lot easier for Conor to sign for 185 than it is Chandler.
Yeah.
I think when Chandler heard that he wanted it at 185, he was probably blown away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, but even in the beginning of the show,
Chandler did say he was down.
What you're told.
Chandler said he was down, but I just don't understand why. Dude, he can make a big deal and use it to his advantage and be like, no, we're fighting at 170 or we're fighting at, dude, if he said we got to fight at 155, 155, I would be like, I can get behind that as well. There's no reason to fight at 185.
I think the biggest problem I have with this is Conor's not really an active participant in the sport as he once was. It's been that way for some years now. And now it's to a point where I feel like he's at this point he has Michael's hopes up so bad to fight him that Michael's holding out. And now he's wasting these later years of his career.
Yeah.
And Michael's a warrior, man. And these fans, say what you want about Michael Chandler, these fans will tune in to watch Michael Chandler fight.
Hell yeah, dude.
Hell yeah. He will come I
think Chandler's a guy who deserves to be fighting top 5 guys in 155, dude. Why does he? It makes no sense for him to fight at 185. I know I've repeated myself a couple times, but I don't know. You can be a title contender at 155, and why would you even think about fighting at 185? Maybe I know the stakes, Conor and stuff like that would be the biggest fight of his career, probably most definitely the biggest payday, but I get it, the money, but listen, bro, we're talking careers here. You know what I mean? I think Chandler still has a lot in him. It would and if he fights at 185 and then he's like, all right, we'll go back to 55, kind of feels like, and also beating Conor at 185 and then going back to 155 and trying to make a title run, I don't think it helps him that much. You know what I mean? You're fighting 30 pounds heavier.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think like I said, I know I repeated myself too, and we'll move on after this, but it sounds to me like Connor doesn't want to cut weight. He's like, hey, if you'll fight me at 185, good. If not, then kick rocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on to the next topic, Dylan. This one's exciting in a little bit
It
because
is.
this was a little bit of something that was unexpected. But Dana announced that Kayla Harrison has signed with the UFC and is going to fight Holly Holm at UFC 300. My first question is, how do you feel about the UFC picking up Kayla Harrison? Is it a good move for her career? I guess my second question is, why Holly Holm, and does it sound like they're trying to give her a good test? It is a huge test in a way. Holly's fought everybody, but a good test to maybe potentially anchor or get Amanda out of retirement to come and
Mhm.
fight Kayla Harrison, because Amanda did kind of hint at, this is
Yeah.
my top.
Yeah.
She's not ruling out not coming back ever.
I think to answer your first question, is it a good what?
Good
Can you
move for her
restate the first
career.
question? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Pretty
Is
much,
it good?
is
Good
it a
for
good move
Kayla.
for Yeah.
Yeah, I think so because I think I think the Chris Cyborg fight would have been huge. Um, but at the end of the day, I feel like it's everybody's dream to fight in the UFC. Now, you might have been in the PFL, you might have been the biggest name in the PFL. However, the UFC is still the epitome of the sport. And I think it's everybody's goal to fight in the UFC. I feel like if any fighter got a call from the UFC and was like, and they were like, "Hey, we'll pick you up. You know, your contract's expired. We'll pick you up." Even if they like the PFL, like, and they're happy with it, like the UFC is the epitome of the sport. We all know that, and I think, yeah, it is a good move for her because now she gets a whole different class of competition. I think 135 is going to be 135 is probably, I think a lot of people are, what I'm trying to say, a lot of people are saying she's not going to make weight. I don't think so. I think she's going to make weight like a professional. I think she's going to be on weight. I think she's already on weight. She's already doing the right things to make weight. Saw some pictures of her. She's looking great, slimmed down, looking very strong. I think that's not a problem for her, but and I think to sum that up, I think it is a good move for her. Big paydays. I think she's going to do well, and that's only going to help her.
Yeah, man. And here's another thing that people don't talk about and how crucial it is for fighters, man. But she has something to her advantage that she didn't have over with the PFL. It's called the UFC PI.
Yeah,
That helps fighters a lot. Like, a lot of fighters
she's
use
already working with them.
advantage.
We all know that.
Oh yeah, man. She
She's
actually does.
probably been working with them for months. I bet you she knew that this was happening. Like I said, I saw a picture of her standing next to Dustin Poirier the other day, and she looked in great shape. Now I'm looking at this comment, Cade. Would you mind pinning it from Mr. Kevin Nicholson? He says, very interested in Harrison making 135. She carries so much muscle, and muscle carries a lot of water. In my opinion, she will lose some muscle mass, and that could affect her game. It's a great take. I can definitely get behind that and understand where you're coming from. He's absolutely right. You know, muscle does carry a lot of water, but she has so much muscle that I think it would, it would definitely affect her wrestling and stuff like that, and her judo and her overall strength. But that's something that I personally can't answer at this moment. That's something that we're gonna have to find out. But I could see it. I could see her being herself and still being very strong and using all of what she has in terms of muscle. Or I could see it. I could definitely see it hurting her a little bit. Because she's always using that strength, and that is always a huge part of her game plan. Patrick Dana said it. Holly's fought Raquel Pennington twice and beat her. There's an argument she's actually the best girl in the weight class right now, and losing a little bit of muscle mass is not something that she would want in this fight. So I could see it. I could see it being no problem, or I could see it hindering her. Definitely, that's something that I personally can't really weigh in on. I think that's a great take, a great question, something we're gonna have to find out on April 13th.
Kevin, I actually appreciate the great comment, great
Yeah,
take. It's actually the reason I can appreciate it is it's factual, and
it
that is
is.
a fact. The one thing though that I would look at is not so much that it would affect her game. It would affect her game in certain areas, of course, but I feel like in the UFC, these girls are just a little bit different in some
Yeah,
aspects.
it's
You
definitely it's
have to
probably gonna
have,
be like a culture shock too.
yeah, you have to have cardio. You have to be able to go all three, all 5 rounds. And, that could also help her out not carrying so much muscle in a sense, too. It could help her in the cardio department, but she might have to take a hit in the strength department. So I think it's going to be a different Kayla Harrison at 135 pounds for
It's gonna
sure.
be very interesting. And actually, after the card, after the fight happens, during the fight, I'm gonna be texting Kevin. He followed me on Instagram earlier. I think I got him back. If not, I'll do it right after. But dude, that's a great question. Like Cade said, I appreciate that take. That's a damn good question, honestly, and it's something that we can only wait to find out.
Yeah, I love
I'm
love
gonna
that
think about that
question.
going forward.
We're gonna have to see. I think time will tell, right? We have to make our opinions based off watching her at 135 pounds.
Yeah,
The PFL kind of had a division made for her in a sense, um, in a way, I guess. So now she's coming down in weight. So it's going to be interesting for sure. And we're going to all find out April 13th at UFC 300. And that's what makes this a beautiful thing, a beautiful sport. But congratulations to Kayla Harrison on finally jumping over here. I think if she does get past Holly Holm, that opens up the doors for a lot of great opportunities for her. This is a great opportunity to fight Holly Holm, but she might end up getting that Amanda fight in the future. Uh, there's a bunch of different doors that are going to open up for her here. So that'll be great.
that's right. Like I said, I appreciate that take a lot. That's something that just expanded my mind quite a bit. Cade, we have a couple fight announcements to discuss here. We made a little list of them, and I'll run through the first one. You get the second one. We'll go back and forth. But first one's first. Chris Barnett is out of his bout with Mohammed Usman, and now Mohammed Usman will be taking on Mick Parkin on March 23rd. What a banger, dude! I think that's a great replacement. Still going to be a super fun fight. I think I'm actually super excited to see Muhammad Usman get back out there, dude.
Yeah. Next one, Junior Tafa will take on Carl Williams March 23rd. That's a solid fight. That should be a good one.
Yeah. That March 23rd card is shaping up to be good. I mean, I'll throw another one out there right now. Edmund Shabazian will take on Dusko. I always mess up his last name. I'll never get it right, but Todorovic, March 23rd. I've heard his name pronounced the right way a couple times on streams and stuff, but I'll never be able to remember how to say it perfectly. And I'm usually pretty good with names, but that March 23rd card just picked up Muhammad Usman versus Mick Parkin. Tafa will take on Carl Williams, and Edmund will take on Dusko. And I think those three fights right there are awesome. That's going to be a fun card. It's already on its way to greatness. But then, Cade, this fight really, really, really excited me when I heard about it today. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's a fun fight for sure. Trevor Peek will take on Charlie Campbell April 6th in the UFC cage, of course. I think Charlie Campbell gets the job done there. However, Trevor Peek is a tough guy, and this fight, whoever wins, I personally, I'm going to take Charlie Campbell in this fight, but I think it's going to be entertaining for sure.
Yeah, I think the only take I have for this fight is it sounds like somebody's head bouncing off the canvas.
Yeah, yeah.
It should be a fun one. The next one we have UFC 300. Jessica Andrade will be taking on Marina Rodriguez. That's a pretty solid fight.
It
I saw
is.
negative comments about that fight. I don't understand it. I think it's a solid fight. Actually, I think it's a good matchup.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm excited to see Jessica Andrade back in the octagon. Um, she's going to be looking to get her hand raised, of course. She's on a one fight win streak right now. She got the job done versus Mackenzie Dern back in November at UFC 295. What a card, man! But before that, she did ride a 3 fight win streak, or I'm sorry, losing streak. She did lose to some of the best in the game, however, Tatiana Suarez, Yan Xiaonan, and Erin Blanchfield. Those are some great competitors. I think she's looking to rebound herself, but that goes for Marina Rodriguez as well, right? Marina Rodriguez got the job done versus Michelle Waterson Gomez back in September. Before that, she was on a 2 fight losing streak herself. Amanda Lemos got her. She knocked her out. But dude, both of these fighters, I feel like we're going to have a similar take on this as we did. What was the other fight we talked about? The Molly McCann fight.
Oh yeah.
I feel like this fight is super important for both here. Jessica Andrade, she's a true competitor, but so is Marina Rodriguez. Both fighters out of Brazil. This is a huge fight for Brazil as well. I'm looking forward to an action-packed fight here, and I think it's a perfect fight for UFC 300.
Yeah. The next one we have Andre Fili. He will now fight Dan Ige in the co-main event coming to you February 10th.
Banger, certified banger.
That's a great fight. We don't even need to go into that because you guys should know who both those guys are and know what they bring, and that's just going to be in the middle of the cage, straight hands. Next fight, you want to announce it, Dylan?
Yeah. Next fight, we're going to have Jakeem Silva will take on Drakkar Close at what is that? That's a fight night card, right? On May 4th.
Yeah.
Fight night card. Yeah, I thought so. That's a banger right there. I know Drakkar and Silva are two tough, heavy hitting guys. We'll probably see some grappling mixed into it too. Both well-rounded fighters is really all I'm trying to say. And for that to be a addition for that May 4th card, I think that was one of the early fights announced on the card. However, card's already in good hands. You know what I mean? That's a banger.
Next one, Sadiq Yusuf will take on Diego Lopez at UFC 300. That is an interesting fight and one that I am excited for.
Me too.
I don't understand real quick.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk. I think I know what you're getting at.
I don't understand why people are griping about the UFC 300 card, man.
I knew it was coming.
You go through this card top to bottom and you look at every single banger that it has, and people are complaining, well, it's not UFC 299. Dude, they're both great cards.
Yeah.
Top to bottom, from the first fight to the last fight.
It just goes to show that the UFC is spoiling us.
Yes, and if you tell me that Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway for the BMF title isn't an exciting main event, you are crazy. But here, I'll do you one better. The only thing that UFC 300, and I'm just saying if that was the main event, I would still be happy with the card. The only thing that this card is missing is a UFC 300 main event, adding another title fight. You add another title fight to this UFC 300 card, man, and we're spoiled, man. From the first fight to the last fight, they're all good fights.
To see Aljamain Sterling, Calvin Kattar, amongst other just bangers, to be on the prelims, like
Charles and Sarukian,
Bo Nichols on the prelims, like, come on, guys, this fight's amazing, and we're gonna have that's gonna be a fun night. I think, sleep on it now, but come fight night, you'll be very entertained.
Announce the last fight. Let's get into our last topic, and we'll wrap this thing up.
All right, I got you. On March 9th, Joanne Wood will take on Mainra Morehouse at a UFC Fight Night card. Joanne Wood, tough woman right there. I think this fight, whether Marina gets the win or Joanne Wood, this fight is going to be great. I mean, I'm not the most knowledgeable about these two, but obviously I know that Joanne Wood brings a fight, and I'm looking forward to this fight. Like I said, not the most educated with these two fighters though.
It's a solid fight. I think both fighters need this fight just as much as the other one. It's again one of those types of fights, but it should be a solid little fight. It's probably it should be a little fun one. I mean, for
Yeah,
sure.
I
But
mean, I'm excited for Marina Moroz. She's going to be representing what is it, Ukraine, and I think right now is a great time for these Ukrainian fighters. Marina Moroz, she's going to be I think Yaroslav Amosov, Marina Moroz, they're kind of like two of the guy and girl duo coming out of your Ukraine, and I think that they represent their country very well. And I'm excited to see that fight. Like I said, I'm not the most knowledgeable. I know Marina Moroz been in the UFC for quite some time now, has a lot of fights under her belt. Should be a banger. Should be a great fight.
did you just did you just have the same thing come through
No,
with the sound?
no.
Sound was coming in crazy for a second. No, I agree though. Moros is coming off 2 losses to Maya and to Karine Silva. So I think this is this is a fight that she has to have, but I you could say the same thing for Wood. So
Yeah,
but let's get into our last topic.
sure.
And this one to me is an interesting one, and then we will let everybody out of here and wrap this thing up. But will Dricus be ready to fight at UFC 300? And who is the right opponent? I'm
So
guessing there's 2 opponents that we can think of right now off tops, or 3 maybe.
who
I guess the 3 would probably be
is
on
he?
top. It would probably have to be Cannonier in
Mhm.
some sense if he's back from injury. I don't know if he'll be ready by 300 though. And I guess the other one, people say he doesn't deserve it, but I kind of disagree. I think it makes for a huge selling main event for UFC 300. But let's settle the beef. Israel Adesanya
Mhm.
taking on Dricus du Plessis.
Let's do it. Okay, so I'll give you a couple ideas of what I think about this. Number one, Dricus, you don't have to fight at UFC 300. Now, if you want to and be on this magnificent card and this giant card, I totally understand it. However, it is pretty quick turnaround for a champion. So I don't want, I'm sure he doesn't, I don't know how pressured he feels, but I wouldn't blame him for taking a couple more months before his first title defense, quite honestly. Eddie, I think that's a damn good idea. And I think it could happen. I think that would be kind of like a curveball. I don't know how many people would be expecting it, but I think it's a good idea because of how controversial everything has been going these past like couple weeks, week and a half ish. I think it makes sense. I think it would be a good idea. I don't know if the UFC would do it, but I think honestly a Strickland rematch would make more sense than a couple other, like I think Cannonier's right there, but like it would make as much sense as I think an Israel Adesanya fight makes more sense. But a Strickland fight makes a lot of sense as well. The only thing I worry about with Adesanya is I don't know if he's going to be back in time for that. Like he took this layoff and said he was going to be gone for a while. So if he comes back, I'd kind of be surprised how early it would be, if that makes sense. But
Yeah, for me,
as far as Dricus, like for him, like I'm not gonna lie, I totally get it. Like I said, if he wants to be on this huge card, but if he doesn't and he wants to take a couple more months, like every champion gets some time to kind of heal up. And Dricus got pretty banged up in that fight, so I don't know. I feel like it's kind of like a risky move for him, honestly.
yeah, I would say for me, Eddie and Dylan, I think Sean, it makes sense. But here's why to me it doesn't make sense. To me, it's not often where a guy comes out, wins a belt, doesn't defend it, more than a couple times successfully. Well, this was his first time, correct?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, but even that, even if they defend it once and they don't defend it 2 times successfully, it's not always in the UFC's cards to give automatic rematches. I think successful champions find themselves getting more put in those spots more than
The only
anyone.
thing I'll say I could agree and disagree with you, Cade, is Sean Strickland has a higher stock and a higher market than a lot of former champions, even the ones that were that had defended
Well,
their belt for a
here
couple
comes
times. You know,
here comes my second part, though.
I'd agree with you,
I
Eddie. It was
agree
a
with
really
you.
close fight, and I think what Sean does for the company, whether you call it good or bad, I think it's still good at the end of the day because you're getting eyes on the sport. Whether it's the people who think it's negative or people who think it's positive, at the end of the day, like the numbers are what matters. And yeah, I think it makes sense. But I don't know. I honestly I feel like Dricus. The only way I see it making sense for him to fight at 300 is if he wants to, just because of the magnitude of the card. I won't. I'm fully gonna back this. I think a champion who got that banged up, he deserves, and he should wait a little longer. But if that's not what he wants, then I get it. But I feel like it's a risky move. You know what I mean? Take a full camp, heal up, take a full camp. You know what I mean? I don't think Dricus is going to be a guy who goes on and defends the title for years. I think he's kind of got, I hate to say it, but I think he's got a short time frame as champion. And yeah, I mean, dude, if you're going to do it, I think be in the best shape when you take those fights, you know? Do you
Yeah,
do
I
you
think
do
the
you think
second part.
Dricus is going to be a reigning champion like that or no?
Well, I think the second part to what I was going to say earlier is that, to me, to your point, Strickland is a higher rated guy. He's one of the stars. He brings the ratings and everything like that. But does he bring more than Adesanya? I don't know. I think the UFC has been wanting Adesanya and Dricus to fight ever since Izzy got in his face and started putting
Yeah,
out the N-word in his face and
yeah,
the Battle of Africa. And then, Izzy lost his belt. So it kind of got put on hold for a minute. But now it makes even more sense
yeah,
because Dricus is holding what Izzy thinks is his.
yeah.
So now it's more of a rivalry. Now
I just
Drake
don't know if
has
Izzy
this
gets
belt.
back in time for it.
Well, we'll have to see. I know Izzy looks in incredible shape. He
Well,
posted.
according to Nina, to this week, the UFC 300 main event announcements coming. She needed like 10,000 comments, and I looked last night. She had like 15,000 in a couple hours. So you promised we should get that main event this week. We got
Yeah, man.
today's Tuesday. We only got Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday,
Friday.
so
I
we
think
come
both.
on
I
with it.
think both guys make sense. I think Strickland actually does. I didn't throw Strickland's name in there for some reason. I don't know why. But you're absolutely right. He does make sense too. But I think the Izzy fight, there's no better time to do it than this year. Why Dricus has the belt, I think it just puts so much more to that fight, the
I
Battle of
wouldn't.
Africa, and everything like that. I just
I
think it's
wouldn't
a
be
great fight to make.
surprised. Sorry to cut you off. I'm bad with that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they held the Dricus and Izzy fight and did it for International Fight Week.
It's possible,
I
but
feel
then
like
it's like,
it
who
would
else
give.
would main event 300? That's the thing that I'm asking.
I
Could
feel
it
like
be
you can get
Aspinall and
Pereira in there.
Aspinall?
Nah, Pereira and isn't didn't Jamal Hill say he'd be back or no? He's not going to be back.
It doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, I
I
know.
think
There's
it
been
is.
mixed things. That's what. I don't know. To be honest, the UFC's in a tough spot. To be honest, they're in a tough spot. They got to get a good main event.
They have something
They
in store
definitely
for it.
have it, but like I don't know. They got a lot of good fights on that 299 card too, bro. They I feel like they kind of jumped the gun with that 299. They should have waited and maybe put one of those as the main event. I don't listen. There's so many avenues to take with this, Cade. It's gonna be crazy. Yeah,
You
I
know
mean
what, Eddie?
Leon.
I didn't
I
even
feel
think
like
about
Leon
that.
and Bilal might be like kind of like might be a front runner, but I don't know. The UFC might want a bigger fight,
Yeah, I don't know, Eddie.
and
That's
that is a big
actually,
fight. But you know what I mean when I say bigger.
yeah, something more exciting, I guess,
Mhm.
that fans would be more willing to be more into, I guess. I mean,
I feel like
they
Pereira,
want
Strickland,
to
yeah,
grab the casual attention to this card, I feel like.
yeah.
So, but anyways, Dylan, we're over an hour. Is there anything else you want to talk about or say to everybody in here, man? This has been an amazing first episode, and it can only grow from here.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to recap the last comment. Eddie said, "Big fight, but we're not dying to see it." He's right. You know, it's a huge fight. I think that would be a good fight for like. I think 301 might be a good idea for Izzy and or for Pereira and Hill. 301 gives Hill some more time, and Pereira will be able to defend his belt in Brazil. So
Agreed.
that there's a lot of thinking that goes into this, and I can't. all I could say is it's probably been tough on the UFC to get everything in line and make the right moves. But I know whatever they end up doing is going to be huge. With that question you just asked me, Cade, no, I got nothing else. I've emptied my gas tank today for sure. But no, man, I would just want to give a shout out to people who are watching. We had some viewers to the end, so that is very, very much appreciated. Even the ones that tuned in, watched some clips, and even the ones that plan on coming back and watching it after it shows up on YouTube after the live stream. Man, we appreciate you all. This is our first episode. I'm so happy with the way it went. Cade, you and I are going to be a fun duo. And like I said, man, I'm just appreciative. Today was a long day for me. I did an interview with John Duma, who's defending his bantamweight title at Combat FC next week. I did a Combat FC preview show with Patrick Dana, Chris DiCarlo, and Combat FC's matchmaker, Rich Caldwell. And now I'm here with you, Cade, Money, Morehouse. But it's been a great day, man. Like I said, I love this shit. Can't get enough of it. And I want to say thank you to you, Cade. Great episode, was awesome. And also to our people who are tuning in. We had Kevin Nicholson here for a lot of it. Patrick Dana tuned in, and of course Eddie Law. Three of our biggest supporters out there, and we appreciate you guys. We can't wait to keep this rolling. This was everything and more I could have asked for a first podcast episode. I think we should look to keep it every Tuesday, Cade.
Let's do it. First of all, I just want to say I wish I could be as busy as you. No, I'm just playing. But thank you to everybody that tuned in. This has been a great episode. Thank you, Dylan. This will grow from here, man. I felt like this went really well for the first one, so we can only get better. And if there's any topics that any of you guys would like to discuss or anything every Tuesday when we come on here, feel free to send us DMs. I'm always answering DMs. Much love to everybody. I'm Cade Morehouse. This is Dylan Napoleon. We're out.